If you want to know the absolute strongest character builds in terms of damage, you are in the right place. If you followed my setup, expect to deal hundreds of millions of damage, even billions, since I've spent dozens of hours or days optimizing each of the character builds to reach their highest potential. So I can save you a lot of time and guesswork and ultimately give you my top 5 strongest builds that will allow you to destroy any boss in the entire game, even in New Game Plus playthroughs. If you're like me who loves classic turn-based or tactical RPGs like Tactics Ogre, Chrono Trigger, or especially Final Fantasy Tactics, you might want to check out Aegis Force The Squarian War, the first entry of Deseret Game Studios as an independent game developer. Explore the mysterious and vast continent of Ianua, a land that suffers from the unending war between the people of Turamain and Genoa. Lead specialized individuals with Calon Roth, a genuine tactimagus and the protagonist of the story. Explore vast locations filled with vibrant landscapes presented in a gorgeous pixel art 2.5D strategy RPG adventure. Recruit new party members along the way and form an army that will match your playstyle. With more than 15 unique characters with different abilities, build your ultimate army and end the war. Download the demo today, available on Steam, to experience what this game can offer to the table. Head to the description to learn more about the game, and thank you Deseret Game Studios for sponsoring this video. Like for example, my Deathbringer Sciel, who destroys Simon with 80 million damage and can take out multiple bosses with hard-hitting AoE damage. Since Sciel is an absolute beast when it comes to buffing her party members, but it doesn't mean that she can't do damage. For us to save time, I will be talking mostly about the main damager per party setup, since the other 2 party members will serve as the main supports to either buff or set up the key character in all of my builds. Corderan will take on the spotlight because of its additional 50% damage when cursed. You don't need to worry about dying after 4 turns because of the curse, because you will be wiping enemies before the curse effect kills Sciel. Then allocate 99 points to luck, defense, and might, and you have the highest possible raw attack stat to deal the highest damage possible for Sciel. While Charnon is a good choice because of its additional 20% damage multiplier per turn, but be sure to adjust your allocated stats to deal the highest damage possible. Slot in Intervention, Fortune Fury, and Our Sacrifice for her key skills, and I will be diving into each of the skills applications later on. This setup will require 312 Luminas to slot in every key passive that I'm showing on the screen right now. In all of my setups, make sure to follow everything here if you want to replicate my results in the actual combat. Keep in mind that Verso's main purpose is to charge the Gradient Gauge pass to level 2 in all of the builds on this list unless he is the main damager. He is equipped with charging and energizing Pictos to do his role efficiently. He can also significantly increase the damage multiplier of the main damager of the party because of his Verso weapon. This weapon allows him to distribute 100% damage multipliers to his allies when he reaches S rank perfection. What I want you to focus on is this weapon is currently bugged and we are still waiting for Sandfall to fix this weapon. Verso 100% added damage multiplier will not apply to the main damager if the main damager is buffed with any kind of powerful buff. Like for example, my Maelle here has a powerful buff. She will only deal 335 million damage. If she doesn't have the said buff, she will deal 934 million damage instead. To make it simple, just make sure the main damager has no powerful buff applied to him or her for the Verso's damage buff to take effect. The second staple member across all of the builds on this list is Sciel, but since she is the main damage dealer in this party setup, Maelle will take her place. The second supporting member's role is to max out the gradient charge level to level 3, while also breaking and setting up the boss for the main damage dealer to finish the job. Take the time following Maelle's setup here and you are good to go. When dealing with multiple bosses, Sciel will skip her first turn to gain additional damage multipliers. Then she will cast Fortune's Fury on herself to double her damage output in the next turn. Verso will then unload free aim shots to charge the gradient gauge during his first turn. If you notice that the gauge stops from gaining charges after applying a mark status, perform a normal attack to end his first turn. Your main objective during Verso's turn is to fill the majority of the gradient gauge and also reach S rank perfection so he can distribute half of his perfection damage bonus, which is 100% to his allies. In Verso's second turn, Unload shots again to fill in the gradient gauge, and once it stops gaining charges, use healing tint on him so he can die and apply max break to all targets. Maelle comes next, and during her first turn, she will shoot one enemy and break it, then cast revenge afterwards to break another one. She will then break the last enemy with the free aim shots and cast healing tint on herself to end her second turn. All bosses are now broken if you follow the setup correctly with all of the key debuffs, and Sciel is ready to end the fight. Cast Our Sacrifice to deal tons of AoE damage and mostly wipe multiple bosses. Then she will take out the last target with an End Slice gradient attack to end the match. When it comes to single targets, the strategy is far more simple. Simon is going to be the test subject for all of the builds here, since if you can destroy this guy easily, you can destroy everything in the game. We will do the same setups that we just did, and I will just be summarizing them to save time. Sciel will of course skip her first turn for more damage multipliers, then cast Fortune's Fury on herself. Then Verso will fill up his Perfection rank to S rank while also filling up the 70% of the gradient gauge. This is where the strategy differs. Maelle will shoot Simon once and cast Last Chance to maximize Sciel's shields to 9 shield stacks. She will then kill herself in her second turn with a healing tint. Sciel will now take her turn and end the match by casting her End Slice gradient attack, dealing 18 million damage in the process. It is lower compared to the other builds on this list, but it is still godly since Simon has only 50 million plus HP, so it is still a good damage overall. This is the highest damage that she can do so far without the roulette, and of course, you will score more damage for fun if you have roulette. But as much as possible, I don't want to use it in all of my builds to eliminate any kind of RNG influence in this build. I'm also aware that Sciel can farm damage multipliers and deal even billions of damage, but not everyone is willing to sit for almost an hour to do this kind of strats. My builds push for the highest damage possible and still retain normal gameplay. If you're getting value so far, subscribe to the channel. Liking the video and engaging in the comments helps me a lot. Join our Discord server and discuss role-playing games such as this, and I appreciate your support. Taking the top 4 spot is our boy Verso, who can deal 80 to 160 million damage by casting his Striker gradient attack and destroy any boss in the game. Clearing multiple bosses is not an issue for Verso since he can just wipe multiple targets with his Phantom Star skill. We have multiple best weapons for Verso, but the best in all cases without any elemental constraints is the Chevalam weapon, granting Verso a 20% damage multiplier in every turn while also giving him S-rank perfection at the start of battle. But the main caveat of this sword is you will not be able to gain shields, so that's already an 80 to 90% damage loss, but it's okay. But the Chevalam provides additional damage multipliers, so at least you are mitigating some of the losses there. In terms of skills, the top picks are Phantom Stars and Follow Up, but the star of the show is Verso's gradient attack, the Striker. Verso's Damager build only requires 273 Lumina to slot in all of the key damage multipliers to get the highest damage possible. I'm posting his Lumina setup on the screen right now. Compared to the previous setup, since Verso is the main damage dealer in this setup, Maelle will take the role of charging the gradient gauge. Sciel, on the other hand, will take the role of the damage buffer and the boss breaker as well. This will never change in the succeeding builds. Moving to the actual fight strategies, and when facing multiple enemies, Verso will skip both of his turn. Then Maelle, as the gradient charger, will unload free aim shots to gain charges and kill herself at the end of her last turn. When Sciel gets her turn, she will shoot the enemy once and break it. Then in the same turn, she will cast Phantom Blade to break another one. During her second turn, she will shoot another boss and break it as well, and cast Fortune's Fury on Verso. At the start of her third turn, she will then kill herself so Verso gets the solo buff for more damage multipliers. When Verso gets his turn, cast Phantom Stars to destroy all targets. It is time for our boy Simon, and we will just repeat almost all of the steps we just did with a few changes. Verso will skip his turn twice, and then Maelle will charge the gradient gauge and kill herself at the end of her last turn. And then Sciel will break the boss by shooting him once. If the RNG messes up with your free aim shots during Maelle's turn, You can further charge the gauge with Sciel by just doing more free aim shots. Just make sure to reapply the mark status for maximum damage. She will then kill herself during her second turn so Verso can end the fight. Once Verso gets his turn, let him cast his gradient attack Striker to destroy Simon, dealing a whopping 85 million damage without the roulette. Using Blow Dumb is an option as well if you want to deal more damage against enemy weak to light. With the same strategy, I've scored 100 million plus damage with Verso when hitting an enemy weak to light element with Striker. You may be wondering how Verso's overall damage goes using the weapon Simoso. I do have a separate build for it since you need to manually reach S-rank perfection to gain the highest damage possible. But the caveat of using Simoso, you will be losing a lot of first hit damage multipliers on this since you will be using free aim shots to charge Verso perfection gauge, and I'm showing the build on the screen right now. Follow the same strategy for the entire party that I showed so far, and using the Striker gradient attack will deal 100 million damage since the Simoso adds a duplicate damage. While the skill follow-up has the highest damage so far, dealing 170 million damage in the process. Even if you lost some of the first hit damage multipliers when using this build, the duplicate damage of Simoso breaks everything. Monoco is securing the top 3 spot on this list because of the ability to destroy his opponent with breakpoint gradient attack and burn multiple enemies with a Sakapatat fire skill. Joyaro is hands down the best weapon for Monoco, allowing him to start wearing an almighty mask which then boosts the damage of certain skills like the Sakapatat fire skill. You only need Sakapatat fire skill to deal with multiple targets, while his gradient attack breakpoint is going to be his highest damaging skill. While for the main build, you only need 302 Lumina to make this build work, and I'm showing his Lumina setup on the screen right now. Pause the video if you need to. What I want to focus on is Sciel and Verso. I mentioned that they are the staple damage buffing supporters on this list, so take the time following the exact setup that I have here since we will use the same build for Sciel and Verso till the list ends. If you're following the guide so far, Verso is going to be the main gradient charger while also buffing the main damager with the Cereso's added damage multiplier. Sciel will be the main boss breaker and the main double damage buffer of the party. Nothing changes to our strategy when dealing with both single and multiple targets, but I will walk you through it quickly. Monoco will skip both of his turn for more damage multipliers when the battle starts. Verso will charge the majority of the gradient charge gauge and kill himself and end his second turn. Sciel as usual will break one enemy with the free aim shots, then buff Monoco with the Fortune's Fury for double damage. Since Sciel has 3 turns, instead of casting Phantom Blade, you do have an option to break all enemies here with just using free aim shots, and then end her turn by killing herself. Once Monoco gets his turn, simply cast the Sakapatat fire skill to wipe all enemies and end the match. It is Simon's time once again and start the match by skipping Monoco's turn twice for more damage multipliers. Nothing really changes when it comes to Verso's strategy and Sciel, but I will walk you through it one last time for us to save time later on, so pay close attention to this. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, and the strategy remains exactly the same in the upcoming builds. So Verso will charge the gradient gauge as usual with free aim shots, then end his turn by healing himself with a healing tent. Sciel will shoot Simon or the boss once to break and apply defenseless, mark, and slow on the target. Then she will cast Fortune's Fury on Monoco for the double damage buff. She will then end her second turn by killing herself with a healing tent. By the time Monoco gets to his turn, cast Breakpoint on the target to inflict maximum damage, and for this instance, deal 266 million damage, and that's a lot. When Monoco's damage is not enough, Skybreak Lune is the second strongest build in the game with the ability to score 316 million AoE damage. Whether you are fighting multiple bosses, nothing can stand against this build. Just like Verso, Lune has multiple good weapons to choose from, and the top picks for her are Scaverim and Coralim. However, since this is a one-shot or burst build, we can afford any kind of RNG, and as I mentioned, I am eliminating any kind of RNG in all of my setup. So the weapon Saparim is the best pick for this setup, which strangely adds up to 15% damage multiplier for gradient attacks, which is perfect for this build. You don't need to equip any skill for Lune since Skybreak is an AoE damaging skill with an absorbed damage multiplier, so you are all set. You only need 257 Lumina to make this Nuke setup work, and I'm showing the exact setup on the screen right now, showing our staple build for Verso as a gradient charger, and for Sciel, which is the main damage buffer of the party. Moving on Lune's actual combat strategy. I have already mentioned that I would be skipping Verso and Sciel steps since I've already mentioned it multiple times in this guide. If you missed it, go back to Monoco's build to find the exact steps. Or you can follow the exact setup on the screen right now. All of the bosses will have defenseless, mark, and slow applied to them if you followed all of the steps on the screen right now carefully. Lune will pull the trigger by casting Skybreak and nuke everything out with 400 million plus damage. Nothing really changes when it comes to dealing with single target when using this build. Once again, follow the exact steps that I'm showing on the screen right now to set up the stage for Lune. Simon will be suffering from a whopping 360 million damage, wishing that someone could just unpaint him. There's no doubt that Maelle is the strongest character in the game, hands down, having the ability to deal an insane 950 million damage with the exact same build and setup compared to the other builds that I just showed you. Just in case you are wondering, yes, she can do billions of damage with the roulette Picto slotted in. And in my case, my highest so far is 1.9 billion damage, and this is only made possible because of her monstrous 200% damage multiplier from Virtuous Stance and a whopping 5,000 damage multiplier from her Gomage gradient attack. Maelle has a lot of good weapons to choose from, starting from Yevarum with a 10k plus raw attack, while Glacium has the highest raw attack with 11k plus. In this build, we'll be using the weapon Glacium, and in all of my tests, it scores the highest damage compared to Yevarum even without the inverted affinity modifier. Allocate 99 points to Might, Defense, and Agility to get 13k raw attack stats and maximize her damage. You only need 246 Lumina to make this monstrous build work, and I'm showing all the passives on the screen right now. For Maelle's skill, you only have Last Chance and Phantom Strike, and that's it. If you want to still play with Stendhal, you may do so, but it is going to be a redundant skill in this setup. And as usual, nothing changes in Verso's build and is still going to be the main party member to charge the gradient gauge, while Sciel will make Maelle's damage skyrocket even further by buffing her with double damage. Multiple bosses strategy comes first, and follow the exact same strategy that I'm showing on the screen right now. If you followed all of the steps correctly, all of the bosses will have defenseless, mark, and slowed applied to them. Maelle will then finish the fight with Phantom Strike, taking out all of the targets without a hassle. My best friend Simon is up once again, and follow the exact steps that we have already mastered a million times if you are following this guide. Once Maelle's turn is up, she will then cast Gomage on Simon and score a whopping 950 million damage, blowing Simon's existence completely. Just in case you are curious and wondering, playing with roulette, you can deal an out of this world almost 2 billion damage, and this is mainly for fun and experimentation purposes only. These builds are only made possible if you know the best Pictos in the game and how they work. This video will teach you all of the things you need to know, like the best combinations and drop locations. Click on this video and I will catch you on the next one.